Welcome to a new episode of the Witty Wallet Podcast, where I guide you through the exciting world of personal finance. I'm your host, Kristoffer Fu, and today we have a fantastic episode lined up for y'all. Most of you know me by now and what I do. For those of you who don't, I'm the founder and private wealth advisor for Maidenbridge Capital, and I have served families as their financial advisors for nearly 2 decades. I know you, like me, we want financial freedom and security. But did you know there was actually a point in my life where I had a pile of credit card debt and was living paycheck to paycheck? I'm going to share with you how I got out of it and put myself in this wonderful position that I am in today. Prepare for some valuable insights and actionable steps to help you set and achieve your financial goals. But before we dive into it, here's a quick, interesting statistic. Did you know that according to a study from Bankrate, only 39% of Americans have enough to cover a $1,000 emergency? That's a startling fact that highlights the importance of setting and achieving financial goals. So let's get into it more. So let's get started with the basics. Why is it important to have financial goals? Well, for me, setting financial goals or even just goals in general is crucial because I've never met any successful person, any person in life that has felt like they accomplished a lot who did not set goals for themselves. Now, in sticking with conversation of what I'm doing here as a financial advisor, the role of having financial goals is really important to achieve financial freedom because financial goals gives us something to shoot for. By having goals, it allows us the opportunity to actually measure our success. And it's not about thinking about the end, but rather the journey, right? Think about the last time you wanted to go and do something big in your life, whether that was jump out of an airplane to celebrate your 30th birthday, or purchasing your dream car or living your dream home. For those of you who have already been able to achieve it, ask yourself, how did you even do it? For most of us, we did not just get up one day and do it. For most of us, it took us time to plan and, more importantly, execution. But it all had to start by setting that goal in the first place. So how do financial goals reduce stress? And how can they improve decision-making? Well, by setting goals, you have to first assess where you're at today. This can also help us practice gratitude because you focus on what you have today and not what you don't have. One of my favorite quotes when I'm talking about finance and when I'm talking about money is really this quote that says, money is the end result of what we get after we serve the world. So instead of focusing on the end result, which is what most people think about and focus on, which is money, focus on serving the world. And you'll be abundantly wealthy in so many ways, not just monetarily. And for me, that's something that is so true because I absolutely love what I do. In being able to serve people, serving families, serving widowed women and business owners. I get a lot of joy in being their thinking partners and helping them think about their financial goals. Because again, most people who don't have financial goals, what I realize is there's no passion, even when it comes to their investments. So again, instead of focusing on the end result when setting your own goals, focus on what is going to serve other people. And so I think there's a lot of consequences, to be honest, with actually those who don't set financial goals. I think of this as kind of like an analogy, like the lost pup analogy, or, just kind of shooting darts in the dark and not really thinking about, what type of financial goals or things do I want to achieve financially? Whether that is, for example, most people say, I want to reach high. And For me, that's very broad to say, I want to retire. Most of my clients and the work that we do and the conversations that we have when it comes to important conversations like retirement, it's, well, tell me more about retirement. Paint me a picture of what that first day of retirement looks like. Paint me the picture of what 10 months into retirement looks like, 5 years into retirement looks like. Because it's important to have these things in our mind because it gives us the ability to, again, stay clear and stay focused on what's most important to us without having the normal day-to-day interruptions get in the way. But more importantly, having these goals in place gives us the focus to make actually very good and very strong financial decisions. And these could be decisions about anything from whether or not I should save an extra 5% into my 401k plan, or whether or not I should be purchasing that new car when the current car is working fine, right? These are important things to always be considering, but we need to have an awareness of that. And I believe that having financial goals and setting financial goals will give us the space and the room to be able to have that awareness so that we can make the right financial decisions. Because I've seen it all too often where those that don't have financial goals, it can actually lead to actually very poor decision making, especially when it comes to, things like piling up credit card debt, right? And not really thinking about your spending habits and what that is actually doing to your long-term financial health. And more importantly, even your personal and mental health. I've unfortunately met a lot of people who've accrued a lot of credit card debt and just feel like they're never going to get out of that hole, because it's very stressful to be in that much credit card debt. So having that awareness when you're making these financial decisions, again, having these goals, I believe can lead to smarter decision making around using debt more responsibly. As I was mentioning to you guys earlier, my own personal story, I actually, at a very young age, when I first started in my very early adult life, I was not great with my credit. And oddly enough, I was not great with managing my money or learning how to budget my money. For those of you who know me and who listened to earlier podcasts, I shared this story in one of my first podcasts. But, that was a time in my life where I didn't have any financial goals. I didn't set any financial goals. So what did I do? I spent money. I had my first debit card and thought that there was a magic fairy on the other end that it just kept spitting out money. I'd buy the most tiniest, smallest financial, costly things, a pack of gum or whatever it may be, right? And spent a couple bucks on that with a debit card, without budgeting, knowing that, hey, Chris, you need to have money on the other end in order to do that. Well, I didn't know that. I just swiped it, did the whole credit thing, and it went through. Well, oddly enough, a month later, I would get a overdraft fee from Washington Mutual, who was my bank at the time. And again, without having that awareness, I kept doing that. To a point where I ended up racking, I believe, over probably $500 in overdraft fees. And, for an 18-year-old, $500 is a lot. So that was a very important point in my life where I really had to learn about the importance of being responsible, especially when it came to money. Because what that also did is it also ended up affecting a lot of my credit score. Because I had a credit card and, missed a couple of payments, and that really, really set me back at a very young age when it came to my credit. My credit, I think, was down to almost 400 something points. And, that was a very eye-opening experience for me. So I had to, at that point, make a decision to say, okay, how am I going to get myself out of this? I have hopefully a long future ahead. And there are so many things that I want to be able to accomplish in life. I want to be able to buy a home. I want to be able to buy a nice car and want to be able to, have a good job and do those things. But I knew that having good credit and having a solid foundation was something that I had to learn, and I had to actually teach that on my own. So what did I do? Well, I looked up things. I looked up things like credit card snowball effect. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at that, but it's basically if you have credit cards and multiple credit cards, and some are charging you, say, a 10% interest rate, and some are charging you a 10%. Yeah, we wish. Some are charging you 20, 30, whatever it may be, right? And the idea is to tackle the highest interest rate debt first, and then paying the minimums, of course, for all the other credit card debt that you have, because the last thing you want to do is not make a payment and that just continue to bring your credit score even lower, go to collections, things like that. Those are things that you definitely want to avoid. So I did that. I learned online how to do the snowball effect. And, sure enough, over time, I was eventually able to get rid of my credit card debt. And I had to start from scratch again. I wasn't able to get a unsecured credit card. So I had to go out and get a secure credit card. And for those of you that don't know that, that's basically where you deposit money to the credit card company, and that becomes your credit line. So for example, I had this $400 secure credit card where I had to give $400 to the credit card company. And that was essentially my credit limit. So when I use it, I still have to pay the bill. Just because I have $400 there doesn't mean that I don't have any bill. Still have to pay the bill. And thankfully, over time, as I continue to work on that and be very diligent about my spending, eventually I was able to get my credit score up to, at one point in time last year, 850, perfect score. But it took a lot of time and it took a lot of awareness. But more importantly, it took me having the goal of that I wanted to be able to do a lot more things in life, like purchase a home and be a lot more financially secure. It got to a point where I made sure that I tracked every single expense that I was spending money on. Even if I was putting that expense on a credit card, I tracked everything on an app that I had on the phone. And that really gave me that discipline that I needed to be able to stick to a budget, and the importance of why a budget is necessary, especially if you're trying to build and you're trying to plan for the future. That's something that I shared with you guys in my last episode about why a budget is necessary, especially if you're trying to make sure that you understand your cash flow and you know where you can make concessions or sacrifices so that you can keep saving more. So it's important. So again, I wanted to share that personal experience with you guys because, obviously what I do now in helping a lot of families and business owners build and continue to build their wealth and giving them, I can, like I said, I like to think of myself as a thinking partner and giving them different pathways and different avenues to consider to make sure that they're utilizing their assets, what they've worked so hard for, to accomplish the things that are most important to them, whether that be pass on a legacy to the family or making sure that their grandkids don't have to worry about taking out college debt, that they can have a great education, or making sure that when they are able to retire, that they can enjoy and go travel, but also come back and spend time with a family on a regular basis, or even start a small business if they've never been a business owner. That's always been a passion of theirs. These are the things that excite me the most when working with my clients, is figuring out what is it that they want out of life. Because we only have so much limited time on this earth, that every day that we get to spend is so precious. And I feel my job is to help be that partner to my clients, because again, they're the expert in their life. My goal really is to provide them with the knowledge that I am and educate them about things that they should be aware of so that they can make the right decisions and ultimately live a life that they, intend to and hope to, continue to pass on to their children. So again, I know I dived deeply into a little bit about financial goals and kind of how that has helped me from a personal standpoint. And just to kind of share a little bit about, what a financial planner like me does, especially when it comes to goal setting with my clients is really that. It's sitting down with someone like you and having that conversation about, tell me about what is most important to you in life. What are things that you want to make sure that before you leave this earth, that you are able to accomplish, or at least you try your best to be able to accomplish that? Because again, we can't time when our time here ends, but we definitely have control over what we can do with the time that we have. And I'm a quote guy. So there's this other quote that I actually just learned the other day. And it said the best way that we can predict the future is by creating it. I love that quote so much. Again, the best way we can predict the future is by creating it. And that's really what financial planning is. It's setting the foundation of understanding where you're at today, but being there, giving you the tools to be able to create the future that you want to create. Now, obviously it's not so easy, right? It's just, you can't just say it and it'll magically happen. There's definitely a lot of work that's involved in creating the future that you want. But that also involves your desire to want to do that work. And I think the problem is that most people don't want to do the work, right? A lot of people want the easy route. They don't want to feel that anxiety or that stress. If they had a choice, they would take the more comfort road. But I challenge you to live life and to want to be able to create what you want, right? And so that's where I love what I do in being able to sit with someone and hopefully extract what's most important to them out of them. And again, that all starts with having financial goals. So where do we start, when it comes to creating financial goals? Well, financial goals, you can't necessarily just have the grand vision goals and then just try to shoot for that, right? Because I think when it comes to goal setting, the bigger the goal, obviously a lot more overwhelming it's going to be. And it's important to have those very big goals, but we need to break them down, right? You have a 3 to 5 year goal. Okay. Let's just say you want to purchase a home in the next 5 years. Or let's just say, for example, you want to retire, right? In the next 5 years. That's your goal. That's your retirement goal in the next 5 years. Okay. Well, we know that we want to retire in 5 years. Well, what are things that we can do in the next year, the next 12 months to help us prepare for that? Then from there, well, what are things that we can do in the next 90 days to prepare for the bigger goal, which is retirement? So I would say, well, in the next 90 days, if we know that our goal is to retire in 5 years, well, the next 90 days is we need to get an idea of where we're at today and how much we need in order to be able to live the life that we want to live in retirement. Those are definitely things that we can do in 90 days, whether that is write out your own personal plan or work with your current financial planner and have that conversation and say, this is my bigger goal. What are some things that we can do in the next 90 days? And more importantly, what are the things that we can accomplish in the next 1 year? Well, within the next 1 year, do we need to be accelerating our savings a bit more? Do we need to minimize our spending so that we can save more in this next year? So by breaking down your goals from the big goal to 1 year goal to every 90-day goals, it doesn't seem as daunting. And when we accomplish these 90-day goals each and every 90 days, what that does for us, it gives us a sense of dopamine because again, we've completed something. Otherwise, if we just say we have a big goal of retirement in 5 years, well, we won't really feel that accomplishment until 5 years comes around, and a lot can happen in 5 years. We might feel very discouraged, either because life happens or because the market, has taken a chunk of our retirement away. Whatever it may be, a lot can happen in 5 years. But if we break it down into smaller increments and make those goals smaller, all those small goals will eventually add up to your bigger goals, right? So that's definitely I would say, suggestion, the first way of breaking down your financial goals. You can have your big goals and start to break them down into shorter term increments. What are things that you can do in the next 90 days, 30 days, 1 year, that'll eventually all add up to the bigger goal, because you need these small things in order to accomplish those bigger goals. And that is kind of an analogy that I like, again, of, I forgot who this professor was, but he basically took out a big open jar in front of his class, and he put in, call it three big rocks, right? And it filled the jar up to the top with these three huge rocks. And he asked the class, is this jar full? And they say, yeah. So then he took out a bag of smaller pebbles, poured that into the big jar, and it filled all the different crevices in between. And he said, is the jar now full? And they said, yes. Then he took out a bag of sand, and he poured that bag of sand into the jar, and the sand went through all the crevices of even the small pebbles and filled it up. And he says, is it full? And they started catching on, and they said, yep. Well, then last thing he does is he takes out a glass of water, pours it in, and the water fills in all of the other crevices within the sand. So I love that story, because he basically says that you need all of these small things in order to fill up the jar. Because if you just say, fill it up with a whole bunch of small things, and you try to put the big rocks afterwards, it's not going to fit. So again, start with having your big goals, and then break those down into smaller goals, which will all accomplish the bigger goals. Now, second tip for you guys, and this is something in a lot of our industry, you might have heard of, but your goals should be smart. And there's a little bit of a twist in this, in that, with SMART goals, for one, your goals should be significant, right? The goals should have significance in your life. They should make you want to be able to do whatever it may be to get that goal, to be able to hit that goal. So again, it should be significant enough for you. The goal should be meaningful, right? It should have had meaning to you, because again, when was the last time you did something that had no meaning? Sure. Yeah, we do that every day, right? There's a lot of things that we do on a day-to-day basis that have no meaning, but they're part of the day. But do you remember what those things were? Probably not. But you probably do remember the things that you did that were meaningful for you. You went out with a good friend that you hadn't seen in such a long time. It's been 10 plus years, right? And you caught up and had great conversations. That was a meaningful experience. And you remember that. You remember that when you guys reminisce and talk about what you guys did 10 years before, and when you guys last met. So again, make sure your goals are meaningful. Make sure your goals are aspirational, and make sure they want you to get out of bed every day. They make you excited to be able to do whatever it is you may need to do in order to accomplish that goals. It can make work a lot more exciting, because again, you have a very aspirational goal in mind. You want to retire much sooner than what the quote unquote public says is 67, right? You want to retire at 60. Why? Because you want to be able to enjoy life and travel and spend more time with family, whatever it may be. Make sure your goals are aspirational and they get you excited. Fourth, make sure your goals are rewarding, right? I love setting goals, even again, those small goals that we talked about, breaking them down into, 1 year, 90 day, even daily goals. You have a daily goal, a monthly goal. When you accomplish it, give yourself a pat on the back, right? You accomplished a goal. So make sure that those goals are rewarding. And more importantly, also make sure that your goals are timely, right? Don't set a goal that has no time limit, because otherwise, again, there's no, I don't want to say pressure, but there's not necessarily any, there's no motivation, because again, if you don't give yourself a time frame that says, I want to accomplish this goal by this time frame, right? There's not going to be any desire. There's not going to be any will, because again, you haven't put a time frame on yourself in order to do that. Because again, why timely is so important is our time here is limited. So don't think that we have so much time on this earth that you can accomplish this goal at a later date. If it's significant enough for you, if it is meaningful enough for you, if it inspires you and gets you excited and it's rewarding, you'll definitely want to have a time on it, because having a time will give you all of those other things that we just talked about. Lastly, I'd recommend, I never used a planner before. Oddly enough, I'm a financial planner, but I never used, one of these calendar planners, but I've been using, I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm not endorsing this or anything like this, but this is a full focus planner, and I write a bunch of, quotes and things like that. But what I love about it is that it just kind of breaks everything down. It has your daily big three, right? 3 big tasks that you want to accomplish by the end of the day. And of course, you have your little tasks that you write out, your calendar, different space for notes. But I would definitely encourage having something like this, is especially if you're wanting to be more organized and make sure that you have your goals visualized. You want to be able to look at your goals on a daily basis and have them get you excited. So I definitely recommend, if you need to, go out and get a planner. I didn't think I ever needed one of these. And then I started this last year, and yeah, I love it, because it keeps me on track with so many things of running the business. But also I get to look back, and every day it makes me summarize what were the wins, Chris, that you accomplished today. And again, those wins are important for us, because it gives us that high. It gives us that dopamine that we've accomplished something for the day. And like I said, it's so important to be able to accomplish so many small things, because they will all add up, and it won't feel like you're running this huge marathon without anything in between. And it's about the journey is the most important part, right? And this is where we grow. And this is where we find the most growth in our lives. So I do encourage, again, getting a planner if you don't have one already. So hopefully those couple tools here that I mentioned to you guys can utilize it or find use into it. They definitely helped me a lot in my business and my personal life, and all the goals that I want to continue to accomplish, and I know I will accomplish them. But some of the other things here that we offer over on Maven Bridge Capital as well is our financial planning tool resource. Again, if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, please check it out. It's a free financial plan. It takes less than 7 minutes to complete, and it's completely anonymous. Now, it's not a full financial plan that goes into depth, and especially the breadth of work that I do for a lot of my clients, but it's definitely a foundational plan. And what I mean by that is, if you're curious and you kind of want to know where do I stand? How do my finances look? It's going to give you a picture of where you stand currently relative to your peers. And it's going to address certain things such as your debt. Are you taking on a lot of debt? That's usually an issue that we try to tackle first before even considering saving or investing, especially again, credit card debt. As I shared with you earlier, you're paying a lot of interest to these credit card companies, a lot more interest than you would earn if you were to put that money into a savings account or even an investment portfolio. So it's always important to make sure that we tackle that debt first. So this will give you an idea of kind of what that looks like. And it also go more general as far as, if your goal is to purchase a house or invest and save for retirement, kind of a general baseline of what your total assets or net worth should look like if you're trying to achieve a certain, amount of lifestyle or a certain financial goal. So again, I definitely encourage it. Again, it is free. It is completely anonymous. There's no sign up required. Email is optional, and you do get a copy of the financial plan emailed to you. And more importantly, what I also like about it too is it gives a life balance assessment. So it asks a couple additional questions just to kind of gauge where you might be from a personal side. How do you feel about your personal relationships, your friendships, your love life, your stress level, all these different areas that are also very, very important on top of your financial life. I believe they all are all intertwined and they all work together. So it's important to make sure that we take a look at everything from a holistic standpoint, because again, that's going to allow us to guide you a lot more into a stronger financial plan and having a much more stronger financial future for you. So definitely check it out. You can go to mavenbridgecapital.com financial health assessments, and I will actually put the link in the show notes here for you guys so you guys can take that at your own convenience and check that out. So again, thank you guys for joining us today. Hopefully you guys were able to gain some additional valuable insight and practical tips on setting and achieving your financial goals. To recap, again, we discussed the importance of setting financial goals, how they can help you achieve financial freedom and reduce stress. And again, hopefully you have a little bit of a step-by-step guide on how to begin your journey. Definitely, if you guys have further questions or would like to shoot me, something that maybe I talked about briefly, or just a quick question, please go ahead and shoot me an email. You can find me on mavenbridgecapital.com and shoot me an email that way. We're also on all social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at the handle at mavenbridgecapital.com. So again, I definitely encourage all of our listeners here to start setting your own financial goals if you haven't already. And we love to hear them. Please share them with us via email, social media, or the comment section. And if you guys like this content and haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and take advantage again of our free financial plan. So until next time, again, my name is Kristoffer Fu, founder of Mavenbridge Capital and private wealth advisor, and the host of the Witty Wallet Podcast, where I educate and empower you to take control of your finances. Thank you guys very much. Have a great day.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Private Wealth Services, LLC, an affiliate of Kestra is. Mavenbridge Capital and Kestra Investment Services are not affiliated. Kestra is and Kestras do not provide tax or legal advice. The opinions expressed in this commentary are those of the author and may not necessarily reflect those held by Kestra Investment Services, LLC or Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. This is for general information only and is not intended to provide specific investment advice or recommendations for any individual. It is suggested that you consult your financial professional, attorney, or tax advisor with regard to your individual situation. Comments concerning the past performance are not intended to be forward-looking and should not be viewed as an indication of future results.